I never thought I'd have to choose between my financial security and my family's love, but life has a way of forcing impossible decisions. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and at 32, I thought I had everything figured out. A stable job as a financial analyst, a cozy apartment in the city, and what I believed was a supportive family. That was until the insurance check arrived. The $250,000 payout for my late husband Tom's life insurance policy sat in my desk drawer for 3 days before I could bring myself to deposit it. Each time I looked at that check, memories of our 5 years together flooded back. The way he'd laugh at his own terrible jokes, how he'd bring me coffee every morning without fail, the sound of his voice saying, "I love you" one last time before the accident. The money felt heavy with the weight of his absence. I hadn't told my family about the insurance money yet. Something in my gut told me to keep it quiet, at least until I figured out what to do with it. Tom and I had always dreamed of opening our own small business, a cozy bookstore cafe where people could spend hours getting lost in stories. Now that dream felt like both a tribute to his memory and a way to secure my future. But secrets have a way of coming out, especially in families like mine. It started with an innocent phone call from my younger sister, Emma. "Mom and Dad are planning a family reunion next weekend," she said, her voice unusually chipper. "They say it's really important that everyone comes. They have some big announcement to make." I should have recognized the warning signs. My parents, David and Patricia Mitchell, hadn't organized a family gathering in years. Usually, they were too busy complaining about their financial struggles or comparing me unfavorably to my more traditional siblings. "Everyone has to come," Emma emphasized. "Mom specifically said to tell you that." I agreed, more out of curiosity than enthusiasm. The reunion was set for Saturday at my parents' suburban home, the same house where I'd grown up. As I pulled into the driveway that morning, I noticed more cars than expected, not just my siblings' vehicles, but those of aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in months. Inside, the house buzzed with activity. Mom had outdone herself with the food, her famous pot roast, 3 different salads, and enough desserts to feed an army. Dad was holding court in the living room, telling his old stories to a captive audience of relatives. Everything seemed normal, but there was an undercurrent of tension I couldn't quite place. "Sarah." Mom rushed to hug me, her perfume overwhelming. "We've missed you so much, sweetheart. How are you holding up?" The concern in her voice seemed genuine, but something felt off. She'd barely called since Tom's funeral 4 months ago, and now she was acting like the most attentive mother in the world. "I'm managing," I said, keeping my tone neutral, taking it day by day. Of course. She patted my arm. "We've all been so worried. But things will get better now. You'll see." Before I could ask what she meant, she hustled me into the dining room, where most of the family was already gathered. Emma sat with her husband and 2 kids. My brother Mike and his wife were there, along with Aunt Susan, Uncle Pete, and various cousins. Everyone smiled at me, but their expressions seemed rehearsed, expectant. Dad stood up, tapping his glass with a spoon. "Now that everyone's here, Patricia and I have an announcement to make." My stomach tightened. Something wasn't right. "As many of you know," he began, "Patricia and I have been struggling lately. The hardware store isn't doing as well as it used to, and our retirement savings took a hit in the market downturn." He paused, looking directly at me. "But we found a solution that will help the whole family." Mom stepped forward, taking his hand. "Sarah, honey, we know about Tom's insurance policy." The room went silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. "How did you?" "That doesn't matter," Dad cut in. "What matters is that this is a blessing for all of us. Your mother and I have it all figured out. The money would be perfect for our retirement, and then we could help Emma with her kids' college funds, and Mike could finally expand his business." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want my insurance money." "It's not just insurance money," Mom said, her voice taking on that martyred tone I knew so well. "It's a chance to help your family. You're young. You can still work and save. We need this more than you do." Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Think about my kids, Sarah. Their education is so important." Mike jumped in too. "My business expansion could provide jobs for the whole family. It's the sensible thing to do." I looked around the room, seeing nothing but expectant faces. They'd planned this ambush carefully, using the family reunion as cover. How long have they known about the insurance money? Who had told them? "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What was that?" Dad asked, though I knew he'd heard me. I said no, stronger this time. That money is what Tom left to secure my future. It's not a family retirement fund. Mom's face crumpled. Right on cue, tears started rolling down her cheeks. After everything we've done for you, all the sacrifices we made. Sacrifices? Something snapped inside me. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder I'd been carrying for months, ever since I'd discovered the truth. You mean like the inheritance Grandma left specifically for my college fund? The one you said never existed. Dad's face went pale. What are you talking about? I opened the folder, pulling out the documents I found while clearing out Grandma's house after her passing last year. Grandma left me $50,000 for college. But according to these bank records, you transferred it all to your account the day after she died. That's why I had to take out student loans. Why I worked 3 jobs during college while you took luxury cruises. The room erupted in whispers. Mom stopped crying abruptly. That money was meant for the family, Dad blustered, but his confidence was shaken. No, it wasn't. I stood up, shaking with anger. It was meant for my education, just like this insurance money is meant for my future, the future Tom and I planned together. Aunt Susan spoke up from the corner. David, is this true? Did Margaret leave money for Sarah's education? Dad's face turned red. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I cut him off. You've been taking advantage of me for years. When I got my first job, you insisted I pay your mortgage because you were struggling. When I got promoted, suddenly you needed a new car. Every time I had any financial success, you found a way to claim it for yourselves. Emma stood up, her face angry. That's not fair. Mom and Dad have always. Always what? I turned to her. Always play favorites, always made excuses. Well, not anymore. The insurance money is mine, and I'm using it to honor Tom's memory by opening the business we dreamed about together. You ungrateful. Dad started, but Aunt Susan cut him off. I think we all need to take a step back, she said firmly. Sarah, I had no idea about the inheritance. David, Patricia, I think you owe your daughter an explanation. But I was done listening to explanations. I'm leaving, I announced, gathering my things. And just so we're clear, I'm cutting off all financial support. No more helping with bills, no more emergency loans, no more bailing anyone out. You're all adults. Figure it out yourselves. As I walked toward the door, Mom's voice rang out, shrill and desperate. If you walk out now, don't bother coming back. You're choosing money over family. I turned back one last time, meeting her eyes. No, Mom, I'm choosing my future over your manipulation. Tom believed in me, in our dreams. It's time I started believing in myself too. The door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. My hands were shaking as I got into my car. But my mind was clear. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly free. The insurance money wasn't just a payout anymore. It was my declaration of independence. As I drove away from my childhood home, my phone started buzzing with messages and calls. I ignored them all. Tomorrow, I would start looking for the perfect location for our bookstore cafe. Tomorrow, I would begin building the future Tom and I had dreamed about. The aftermath of the family reunion hit harder than I expected. By Monday morning, my phone showed 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, and dozens of emails from various family members. I blocked each number methodically, like pulling weeds from a garden. The messages ranged from guilt-tripping to outright threats. Mom hasn't stopped crying. I hope you're happy. Emma, you'll regret this decision. Dad, your selfishness is destroying this family. Mike, we're just trying to help you move on from Tom. Mom, that last one stunned the most. They were trying to use my husband's death as emotional leverage. Tom would have been furious. He always said my family treated me like their personal bank. I threw myself into planning the bookstore cafe. The insurance money sat untouched in a new account at a different bank, one where my family couldn't possibly have connections. I learned that lesson after discovering they'd somehow found out about the payout through Dad's golf buddy, who worked at my old bank. 3 days after the reunion, I was meeting with a real estate agent when the first real attempt at sabotage came. Ms. Mitchell. The agent, Kate, looked uncomfortable. I just received a concerning call about you. A man claiming to be your father said you're mentally unstable following your husband's death and not competent to enter into business contracts. My hands clenched into fists under the table. Let me guess, he suggested you work with him instead. Kate nodded. He offered to handle all the paperwork himself. I can provide documentation proving I'm perfectly competent, I said, pulling out my phone, including a letter from my therapist confirming I'm processing my grief in a healthy way. I've been expecting something like this. Kate relaxed visibly when I showed her the papers. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Family business can be messy. They're not my business partners, I said firmly. They're just people who want to control my money. We continued reviewing potential properties. I had my heart set on a corner location in the historic district. Good foot traffic, lots of natural light, and enough space for both the bookstore and a cozy cafe area. Tom and I had walked past that very building many times, dreaming about what we'd do with it. The next attack came from an unexpected direction. My sister Emma showed up at my workplace, her 2 kids in tow. She knew I couldn't make a scene in front of them. Aunt Sarah. They ran to hug me, and despite everything, I hugged them back. I loved those kids, even if their mother was currently trying to manipulate me. We need to talk, Emma said, her voice honey sweet. The kids miss you so much. I led them to a nearby coffee shop, buying hot chocolate for the children while Emma launched into her prepared speech. I know you're hurt about Mom and Dad, she began, but think about what that money could do for the family, your niece and nephew's education. Stop. I cut her off. You have a good job, Emma. Your husband has a good job. You've had years to save for their college funds. Your failure to plan doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. How can you be so cold? She hissed, mindful of the kids playing with their drinks. We're family. Yes, we are. And families should support each other emotionally, not treat each other like ATMs. I looked at my niece and nephew, feeling a pang of sadness. I love these kids, and I'll always be there for them. But I'm not sacrificing my future to subsidize your poor financial choices. Emma stood up abruptly. Kids, say goodbye to Aunt Sarah. We're leaving. But Mom. Now. I watched them go, fighting back tears. Using the children was a low blow, but I shouldn't have been surprised. My family had always been skilled at emotional warfare. That evening, I visited Tom's grave. I hadn't been since the funeral, but I needed to feel close to him. You were right about them, I said softly, placing fresh flowers against the headstone. I should have listened sooner. A familiar voice behind me made me jump. Sarah? I turned to find Aunt Susan standing there, holding her own bouquet of flowers. I thought I might find you here. My guard went up immediately. Did Mom send you? No, she set her flowers down and sat on a bench nearby. I came to apologize. I had no idea about the inheritance or about how they've been treating you all these years. I stayed standing, not ready to trust. They're your family too. Yes, and I've been enabling their behavior by staying quiet. She patted the bench beside her. Please sit. I think it's time someone told you the whole truth. Reluctantly, I sat. Your parents, she sighed heavily. They've been living beyond their means for decades. The hardware store hasn't turned a profit in years. They keep it running on loans and credit cards. Those cruises, the new cars, the country club membership, all debt. This wasn't entirely surprising, but hearing it confirmed made my stomach churn. When your grandmother left you that money, Aunt Susan continued, they were already in deep trouble. They convinced themselves they were just borrowing it, that they pay it back before you needed it for college. But they never did. No, and every time they've taken money from you since, it's gone straight to maintaining their lifestyle or paying minimum payments on their debts. She turned to face me directly. They saw Tom's insurance money as their last chance to avoid bankruptcy. I absorbed this information slowly. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to be prepared. They're desperate, Sarah. I've never seen them like this. They're talking about legal action, claiming you're not mentally fit to manage the money. They're even suggesting Tom would have wanted them to have it. Hot anger flashed through me. Tom hated how they treated me. He's the one who encouraged me to start saying no to them. I know, Aunt Susan smiled sadly. He was a good man, which is why I'm going to help you protect what he left you. I eyed her suspiciously. How? I'm a witness to their confession about stealing your inheritance. I have emails where your mother admitted using your money to pay their debts. If they try anything legal, I'll testify. And she reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. I have copies of the documents proving they forged your signature on some loan applications. My head spun. They did what? They used your good credit to take out personal loans. 3 of them, about 5 years ago. I found out by accident and confronted them. They swore they'd pay them off. But they didn't. My voice was flat. Have they paid any of them? Minimum payments only. There's still about $45,000 outstanding, in your name. I took the USB drive with trembling fingers. Everything made sense now. Why they were so desperate for the insurance money. Why they brought the whole family to pressure me. They weren't just after my money, they were trying to cover up their crimes. What should I do? Aunt Susan squeezed my hand. Protect yourself. Use that evidence if you need to, but be prepared. Exposing this could mean serious legal consequences for them. They should have thought of that before committing fraud. Yes, they should have. She stood up. I'll keep you informed if I hear anything else. And Sarah, Tom would be proud of you for standing up for yourself. After she left, I sat by Tom's grave until the sun set, turning the USB drive over in my hands. I had decisions to make, hard ones. My family hadn't just betrayed my trust. They committed crimes that could land them in jail. But as I watched the last rays of sunlight paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, I felt strangely calm. I knew what I had to do, and for the first time, I was ready to do it. Standing up, I touched Tom's headstone one last time. I'm going to build our dream, honey, and I'm going to make sure no one can take it away from us. The next morning, I called my lawyer. My lawyer, Diana Martinez, reviewed the evidence on the USB drive with a grim expression. This is serious, Sarah. The loan fraud alone could result in significant jail time. I sat in her sleek downtown office, surrounded by credentials and awards, feeling both vindicated and sick to my stomach. What are my options? Several, she said, organizing papers into neat piles. We can report the fraud to the police immediately. Your parents would likely face criminal charges. Or we can use this as leverage to make them back off completely. But we'd need to be careful about how we present it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your father had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. Please come, Mom. Diana saw my face change. What is it? They're claiming my dad had a heart attack. I showed her the text. This feels like another manipulation tactic. She frowned. Want me to verify? 20 minutes later, her assistant confirmed that my father had indeed been admitted to City General with chest pains. It wasn't a major heart attack, but it was real. This complicates things, Diana said. They'll use his health as emotional leverage. She was right. Within hours, the messages started flooding in from relatives I hadn't even blocked yet. Your father could have died thinking his daughter hated him. This stress you're causing is killing him. Family should come before money. I visited the hospital that night, after regular hours, to avoid running into my mother or siblings. Dad was asleep, looking smaller and older than I remembered. A part of me wanted to forgive everything, to go back to the way things were. Then I saw the paperwork on his bedside table. He'd been admitted under my name, using my insurance information. I took photos with my phone and left before anyone could see me. The next morning, I sent everything to Diana. They're still trying to use you, she said when I met with her again. This proves they haven't changed. I think it's time to take action. She drafted 2 letters. The first was to my parents' creditors and the banks holding the fraudulent loans, explaining the situation and providing evidence that the signatures were forged. The second was to my parents themselves, outlining our terms. They would sign documents admitting to the fraud and inheritance theft. They would make arrangements to take over all fraudulent loans. They would cease all contact unless approved by my lawyer. Any violation would result in criminal charges. It's harsh, Diana admitted, but it's better than jail. I authorized her to send both letters. The response was nuclear. Mom showed up at my apartment building, screaming so loudly that security had to remove her. Mike posted a lengthy rant on social media about ungrateful children who'd see their parents imprisoned. Emma sent photos of her kids with tearful messages about how they'd grow up without grandparents because of me. But Aunt Susan came through again. She called to tell me that behind closed doors, my parents were terrified. The evidence was irrefutable, and they knew it. 3 days after the letters were sent, their lawyer contacted Diana to negotiate. The meeting was set for Friday afternoon. I sat beside Diana in the conference room, watching my parents file in with their lawyer. Mom had clearly been crying, and Dad still looked unwell. They wouldn't meet my highs. "Let's begin," their lawyer said, but Mom burst out. "How could you do this to us? We're your parents." Diana raised her hand. "Mrs. Mitchell, if you can't maintain professionalism, we'll proceed directly to filing criminal charges." That shut her up. The negotiations were brutal. My parents' lawyer tried to argue that they had acted with my implicit permission, that family financial arrangements shouldn't be scrutinized so harshly. Diana systematically destroyed each argument with documented evidence of their fraud. "My client is prepared to be generous," Diana said, her voice steel wrapped in silk. "She won't press criminal charges if you comply with all terms. Consider it a courtesy for raising her." Dad started to speak, but their lawyer stopped him. In the end, they signed everything: the admission of fraud, the transfer of loan liability, the no-contact agreement. With each signature, Mom's tears fell faster, but I felt nothing. I cried all my tears already. As they stood to leave, Dad finally looked at me. "I hope you're happy," he said bitterly. "You've destroyed this family." "No," I replied, finding strength in my voice. "You did that when you stole from me, lied to me, and tried to take the last gift my husband gave me." Outside the lawyer's office, I found Aunt Susan waiting. She hugged me tightly. "It's done," I said into her shoulder. "How do you feel?" "Empty, relieved, scared, free." I pulled back to look at her. "I just lost my entire immediate family." She squeezed my shoulders. "No, honey, you lost your abusers, your real family, the people who truly love you. We're still here." That night, I went back to my apartment and opened a folder of renovation plans for the bookstore cafe. The closing on the property was scheduled for next week. Soon, Chapter 2 Books and Brew would be more than just a dream. I touched the logo design Tom and I had sketched together years ago. He'd always said everyone deserves a second chapter. Now I was finally writing mine. My phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "The kids made you cards. They miss you. Please don't punish them for what Mom and Dad did." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I love them and I love you. When you're ready to have a relationship that doesn't involve guilt or money, I'll be here. The cafe will have a special corner just for them." She didn't respond, but I had hope. Maybe in time we could build something new, something healthier. For now, though, I had a future to build. I opened my laptop and started working on the cafe's menu, smiling as I added Tom's favorite drink, a hazelnut latte with extra whip, to the list of house specialties. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time in years, I was ready to face them on my own terms. 6 months later, I stood in the middle of Chapter 2 Books and Brew, taking in the morning sunlight streaming through the front windows. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with new books, exactly as Tom and I had imagined. Our dream had become reality. The cafe was doing better than I projected. Turns out, people really did want a place where they could browse books while sipping carefully crafted coffee. The corner nook I'd designed for children, with its comfortable beanbags and collection of picture books, had become especially popular with local families. I hadn't heard from my parents since the lawyer's office. Mom had tried to send a birthday card through Aunt Susan, but it had contained yet another guilt trip message, so I'd returned it unopened. Dad's health had improved, according to Susan, but he still blamed me for everything. Mike had moved to another state for work, cutting contact with everyone except Mom and Dad. Emma had surprised me. 2 months after the legal confrontation, she'd shown up at the cafe just before closing. She stood awkwardly by the counter, clutching her purse. "This place is beautiful," she said softly. "Tom would have loved it." Yes, he would have. We sat in silence for a while, the evening light painting shadows on the walls. "I've been seeing a therapist," she finally admitted, "trying to understand why our family is the way it is, why we always thought it was okay to take from you." That conversation had been the start of a slow reconciliation. Not perfect, not complete, but real. Emma came to the cafe every Wednesday now, sometimes with the kids, sometimes alone. We were learning to be sisters without money being involved. Today was different, though. Today was the anniversary of Tom's death, and I closed the cafe for a private event. At 6 p.m., people started arriving. Aunt Susan, some of Tom's old friends, a few loyal customers who'd become friends, and yes, Emma with the kids. I'd set up a small memorial display near the fireplace. Photos of Tom, his favorite books, and a special edition of the drink named after him, the Tom's Legacy Latte. But this wasn't a sad occasion. It was a celebration of dreams realized and strength found. I want to thank everyone for coming, I said, raising my cup. A year ago, I thought I lost everything. My husband, my family, my direction. But Tom left me more than just money. He left me the courage to stand up for myself and the vision to build something meaningful. Emma squeezed my hand. Her kids were curled up in the reading nook, already absorbed in new books. This place isn't just a business, I continued. It's a testament to love that lasts beyond loss, to dreams that survive grief, and to the family we choose to build around us. Aunt Susan wiped away tears, smiling proudly. She'd become more of a mother to me in the past 6 months than my own mom had been in years. Later, after most guests had left, Emma lingered. Mom asked about you yesterday, she said carefully. She saw the article about the cafe in the local paper. I focused on wiping down the counter. What did you tell her? That you're doing well. That you're happy, she paused. She cried. Emma, I'm not asking you to forgive them, she said quickly. I get it now, I really do. I just thought you should know. I nodded, grateful she wasn't pushing for more. As I locked up that night, I sat for a moment in Tom's favorite reading spot, a worn leather armchair by the window. The streetlights cast a gentle glow through the glass, illuminating the quote I had painted on the wall above. Every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. Tom had said that to me once, during his final days in the hospital. He'd been talking about the bookstore then, but the words meant something different now. I'd lost my first family, yes, but I'd gained something more valuable, self-respect, true independence, and the knowledge that I could stand firm in my decisions. I built a new family, one based on genuine love and support rather than obligation and guilt. The insurance money hadn't just given me a business. It had given me the chance to write my own story, to choose my own characters, to be the hero instead of the victim. Tomorrow, the cafe would open again. Customers would come and go, books would find new homes, and life would continue its steady forward march. But tonight, in the quiet of my dream made real, I whispered a thank you to Tom. He'd given me one last gift, not just the money, but the courage to use it wisely. In saving his legacy, I found my own. And that was worth more than all the insurance money in the world.